Before I talk about the George Floyd body cam footage and racial division in this country, let's watch this black and white video from decades ago.
As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street. They want hatred, violence, and bloodshed between the races, and they don't care how they get it or whom they use, even children if necessary. Here is a book that I think ought to be in every home library. It's entitled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. He joined the party as a young man because he honestly believed that the communists were trying to improve the conditions of his people. He was a dedicated communist, and eventually he rose to one of the highest ranks. But after many years, he discovered that instead they were merely planning to use his people in a bloody revolution to destroy America. And when he woke up to this, he dropped out of the party and devoted the rest of his life trying to alert his fellow citizens of all races to the true nature of the Communist Party as he knew it to be from the inside. Manning Johnson said, "Black rebellion was what Moscow wanted. Bloody racial conflict would split America. During the confusion, demoralization and panic would set in. Then finally the Reds say, workers stop work. Many of them seize arms by attacking arsenals. Street fights become frequent. Under the leadership of the Communist Party, the workers organize revolutionary committees to be in command of the uprising. Armed workers seize the principal government offices, invade the residences of the president and his cabinet members, arrest them, declare the old regime abolished, establish their own power."
That was G. Edward Griffin, and the book he was talking about was Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. I decided to buy the book myself, and I got one that had a preface written by Archibald B. Roosevelt, which is Theodore Roosevelt's son. In the book, this was the first paragraph. "In modern literature, anti-communists are generally pictured as scoundrels. On the other hand, left-wing perjurers and jailbirds are shown as persecuted lambs." And that's still true today. Anybody that pushes back against communism will be very unfavorable by mass media, celebrities, entertainment culture. And on the other hand, left-wing perjurers and jailbirds, such as people literally burning, looting, committing domestic terrorism against federal property, like G. Edward Griffin mentioned in his speech decades ago, they're always shown as the persecuted lambs. History repeats itself, and these plans have been written for decades. So on that note, let's talk about the George Floyd body cam footage, which conveniently came out months after people had the riots across the country. I'm going to be fair about this on both sides. First of all, this totally changes the narrative around the situation. They made it seem like it was for sure 100% racism. This was a targeted attack. They just threw him on the ground. And with the body cam footage, you can see that's not the case. He was extremely high, probably higher than anybody I've ever seen. Wouldn't listen, wouldn't comply. They asked him 20, 30, 40 times. He said he couldn't breathe earlier. They said we'd open the window. He literally requested to lay on the ground. So I'm not making excuses for what Derek Chauvin did. I still don't agree with the knee on the neck. I think that's pretty obviously a horrible idea, especially after he was struggling to breathe and high on drugs. I think that was messed up, and the court should definitely look at that. To be honest, I felt really bad for George Floyd. I could see that he was high beyond belief, and probably so high he didn't even know what was going on. I really do feel bad for him. The red flag was the knee to the neck, and also the fact that they pointed a gun at him pretty quickly. I'm not a police officer. I wasn't in that situation, so I don't want to judge, and I'm also not the judge, but seemed a little bit early to me. But besides that, no matter which side of the fence you're on, even though most people agree that the knee to the neck was horrible, the narrative totally changed around this event. But here's the thing. The media already milked it for all it was worth. Democratic groups who weren't getting that much fundraising maxed out donations. They were crushing it, competing with Trump for the first time in a long time. Organizations like Black Lives Matter, that are admittedly run by trained Marxists, raised so much money, which I'm sure a lot of it will go to try to get Democratic Party people in there that support their ideology of Marxism. And they've already convinced half the planet that this was solely due to racism, although with the body cam footage or even the evidence before, that's not conclusive at all. In fact, the complete opposite. They just said that because of the racists. And this is something they do all the time. There's tens of thousands of events, if not millions of events, if not hundreds of millions of events, and they wait for one that's racially divisive to blast it in the media, use it for political fundraising, and can divide people and program and brainwash people to destroy their own buildings and neighborhood. And I try to be kind and compassionate, obviously, but you can't play checkers while they're playing chess. This type of stuff, these strategies have been written, like I just showed you, for decades, if not hundreds of years. And this event was just perfectly laid out to cause division for years. You had the event, the riots, then you had the body cam footage, which, to be honest, when it's all said and done, he might not get the charge that everybody wants him to get. And then, of course, there's going to be more riots, or people are asking for all the police officers who are on the scene to be arrested and jailed. But if you really look at them, some of them, it was like their first week of work, I believe, or first couple of days. And with the body cam footage and everything that you saw, you're trying to throw somebody in jail for life for what one of the other officers did on their first couple days on the job. That seems very unlikely to happen, which might cause protests and riots as well. And while all this is going on, I'm not saying that the officer should be innocent. I'm not saying that you can't be upset by what happened. But as this is happening, they're replacing you with virtual fans at NBA games and MLB games. You've been replaced by computers, literally. They're treating NBA players like some sort of upscale prisoners, making them stay at the bubble, playing in front of empty courts with the computer-generated fake people that they've replaced you with. You've had perhaps the biggest economic and societal crisis of the last 100 years. You have Democrat-run areas turning off power and water on people who don't comply, aka want to have a party or run their business. You have them trying to dissolve the NRA, which is the leading group in the country protecting the Second Amendment and gun rights. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they've convinced you to burn down your own city or somebody else's city in response to an event that they're purposely dragging out for as long as they possibly can to milk it for fundraising and racial division. And all I'm saying with what I showed you from the G. Edward Griffin from decades ago, this book, Color, Communism, and Common Sense, which was written nearly a century ago, these plans have been written, these ideologies have killed millions of people, ruined entire prosperous societies, and what they notoriously do is use women, children, minority groups, tragedies to push forward their agenda, because in a tragedy or in a pandemic, you can't disagree with them. It's racist, it's sexist, they say you hate kids, they lie and say that they own and control science and medicine, and anybody who questions them, even with data and facts and a degree in science and a medical license, can't do it, but they can have their experts, many of which don't even have medical licenses, can say whatever they want and can't be challenged. They're going to censor you, they're going to silence you. They're even censoring the president and his son. And this is how they've operated for 100 years. So don't play checkers while they're playing chess. Wake up, use your mind, use your freedom of speech before it's all but gone, because that's what they want to do. Divide and conquer. And the real crime that people like Kanye West committed was railing against the Marxist communist agenda and telling people that a strong mentality, gratefulness, buying land, and farming is actually the answer. They can't have that, because if you're strong mentally, you're appreciative, and you understand the blessings of where you're at, these wicked people can't take it away and use you, control you, and scramble up society all around you while you become useful, programmable pawns in the big sick game that they're playing. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. I'll be back with more videos, and you'll never see me kneel to these wicked deceivers.